Kim on his side. Fortunately for Kim, North Korea has legal goods and a willing trade partner right next door.
Who is Kim's link to China?
It has to be Jong Sung-taek.
And Jong is part of the family. Kim elevated his uncle to number 2. Jong Sung-taek oversees some of the state-run trading companies, which mine reserves like coal and iron ore. Jong uses his connections to sell those minerals to China, and the profits come back to Kim.
This is the man who can cut the deal with China. He has a lot of credibility with the Chinese, yes.
Thanks in part to Kim's uncle, trade with China is booming, from $1 billion a few years ago to $5 billion now.
We've accounted for the weapons and the minerals. How else is he getting money?
He's getting money through illicit transactions.
U.S. officials say North Korea is exporting illegal drugs like meth, producing knockoffs of popular cigarettes and pharmaceutical drugs, even counterfeiting good old Ben Franklin.
A U.S. official tells us that the illicit stuff is still pretty small scale, but the North does get a bit more from tourism and foreign investment from South Korea and China. But in a country where residents don't pay taxes and the country's not connected to the international trading market, the official says basically it's minerals and weapons that are the cash cows keeping Kim in power. Chris Lawrence, CNN, Washington.
President Barack Obama has made an emotional appeal to Congress urging lawmakers to pass new gun control laws. Obama, after making the plea in Newtown, Connecticut, where a young man killed 20 children and 6 educators 4 months ago, brought the families of the shooting victims to Washington to help make his case. We have more in this report by CNN.
Christie, and certainly very, I guess you would say, unique. I've never really seen President Obama sort of bringing his advocates with him to Washington on Air Force One, but with Congress struggling to find a gun measure that will even see debate on the Senate floor, President Obama can use all the help he can get.
If he can't convince Congress to take up gun legislation, perhaps they can. President Obama brought 12 family members of the Newtown shooting victims back to Washington with him, personally ushering them off Air Force One. Among them,
the President of the United States,
Nicole Hockley, who lost her 6-year-old son Dylan at Sandy Hook Elementary School.
Though sometimes the waves of sadness are so great they threaten to drown me, I stand before you now and ask you to stand with me, with all the families.
Hockley had earlier introduced the president as he began a week-long White House push for a gun bill. Obama criticized Republican senators for trying to block a measure from coming to the Senate floor.
In the wake of a tragedy, you'd think this would not be a heavy lift. And yet some folks back in Washington are already floating the idea that they may use political stunts to prevent votes on any of these reforms.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is now planning to join the 13 senators who say they will filibuster a bill. Democrats are hoping to overcome the filibuster with a bipartisan compromise that would require background checks for all or almost all gun purchases. The measure has overwhelming public support but is in jeopardy in the Senate.
We have to tell Congress it's time to require a background check for anyone who wants to buy a gun so that people who are dangerous to themselves and others cannot get their hands on a gun. Let's make that happen.
Now, this is very much part of a full-court press by the White House this week on this issue. Vice President Joe Biden, along with the Attorney General Eric Holder, are holding an event here at the White House today where it will focus on law enforcement. They'll have a number of law enforcement officials with them. And then, Chrissy, tomorrow, the First Lady herself, Michelle Obama, will head to Chicago. She'll be talking about how young people need opportunity, and that includes being able to grow up with safety from guns.
Well, time now to take another break. When we come back, Fatou Jasseh would update us with the sports news. Stay tuned then. Welcome back to the news, Fatou Jasseh. What do you have for us?
Last season, the Manchester Derby effectively decided the Premier League title, and this year the stakes are not that high, but there is still no shortages of drama in the competition. CNN's Amanda Davis looks at last night Manchester's Derby and others in this roundup.
One that certainly never disappoints. It didn't on Monday night either, and Roberto Mancini says that Manchester City can regain the Premier League title next season after writing off their hopes for the current campaign, but that's despite the fact that they beat the league leaders and their great rivals Manchester United on Monday night. City closed the gap on United at the top of the table to 12 points with their 2-1 win at Old Trafford. A great late strike from substitute Sergio Aguero gave City their second straight win at United, but with just 7 games of the season still left to play, Mancini conceded afterwards that United do very much remain on course to win their 20th league title. Well, of course, both City and United are out of the European Champions League, and in that competition we're gearing up for the quarter-final second legs later on Tuesday. Malaga have an extra incentive heading into their game against Germany's Borussia Dortmund. Their coach Manuel Pellegrini is expected to return from Chile following the death of his father over the weekend, just in time for the match. The tie is finally poised after a goalless first leg in Spain. The Dortmund coach Jurgen Klopp is hoping his side can write another chapter in his club's history, but many are saying that the Bundesliga side could be in trouble without an away goal in the bank. Malaga are playing in the competition for the first time, but are looking to cause an upset.
Of course, the anticipation before the game is different from normal, but we have a lot of trust and we have the appetite. And I don't think our result in the first leg was a bad one. Those who think that Dortmund is as good as through, they are barking up the wrong tree.
Never mind a tree, Galatasaray have a mountain to climb against Real Madrid. They're 3-0 down heading into their second leg on home turf in Turkey. But the Real Madrid manager, Jose Mourinho, is still urging his side to be a little bit cautious. Galatasaray aren't helped, it has to be said, by the fact that their striker, Burak Yilmaz, is suspended for the match. He's the tournament's joint second highest scorer alongside Lionel Messi. The Real Madrid pair of Sergio Ramos and Xavi Alonso are also missing because of suspensions. That could help the Turkish side, but the Spanish giants are definitely the favourites as they bid for their 10th European crown.
In a football game, we have seen everything, we've experienced everything, but it will be difficult. We will play against Real Madrid. This is not an ordinary team. Galatasaray will go all out. Everything is possible in football. I hope tomorrow we will see that.
Fatih Terim saying, Christia, everything is possible. Real Madrid did win the first leg 3-0, so that could mean Galatasaray can win the second by a big margin, but they've certainly got a tough evening ahead.
Well, Fatu, that's all in sports. Back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Fatu. You're looking very nice. And before we go, reminder of our headlines. President Jammeh has held talks with former East Timorese politician Jose Ramos Horta and the IMF mission chief to the region. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice has presided over the 53rd session of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights held in Banjul. 15 African heads of state and governments have attended the inauguration of the newly elected Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, who faces war crime charges at the International Criminal Court. And Barack Obama has made reference to victims of the Newtown, Connecticut shooting spree to urge U.S. Congress to pass gun control measures. That's all in this edition of the news. Thank you very much for your time. Until we come your way again, have a very good night.